My name is Beth Marquez, and I'm 29 years old. For 3 years, I believed I was building the kind of life you take pictures of to brag about. A quiet apartment with warm lights, steady routines, the kind of love people say doesn't burn out. At least that's what I thought. Back then, my boyfriend Kevin used to call me his safe place. When we first started dating, he'd gush to his friends about me, about how calm I was, how I listened without judging, how I never raised my voice. He'd tell them I had this way of making him feel grounded just by existing. And I took pride in that. I wasn't the loudest person in the room, nor the flashiest. I didn't crave attention or chase thrills. I just showed up every day and loved him the best way I knew how. I work in IT consulting. It's not glamorous, but it pays well, and it's stable. I don't drive a sports car or flood Instagram with gym selfies, but I truly thought that stability mattered more than spectacle. Maybe I was wrong, or maybe Kevin just changed. It started so small, you'd almost think I imagined it. Little comments tossed like pebbles. Do you ever do something spontaneous, Beth? You're so routine. He'd laugh afterward, brushing it off like a joke. But jokes always hide truth, don't they? Then came the comparisons. We were at his college friend's birthday party once. The music was loud, the kind that rattles your ribs. Some guy named Nick decided to be the center of attention by dropping to the floor and doing obnoxious push-ups in the middle of the living room. Everyone clapped, cheering him on. Kevin nudged me with his elbow and grinned. You could learn a thing or two from him. Confidence never hurt anybody. I looked at him, not sure whether to laugh it off or ask if he was serious. Before I could decide, he rolled his eyes. Don't be so sensitive, it's just a joke. But it didn't feel like a joke. It felt like the ground shifting under me just enough to make me stumble. Over the months, that version of Kevin, the one who once saw me as his safe place, started to vanish. He was always on his phone, thumb flying across the screen, laughing at messages he wouldn't explain. His social media changed too. Pictures of him at the gym, shirtless mirror shots, captions like, "Don't get comfortable." He still came home to me at night, still dropped his keys in the dish by the door like he always did. But somehow it felt like I was living with a stranger who was already halfway gone. I tried to talk to him. God knows I tried. One night while we were eating takeout in silence, I finally broke. Kevin, are we okay? You've been distant, different. I don't want to assume, but I can't ignore it either. He sighed, leaned back in his chair, and looked at me like I was exhausting. Beth, you're overanalyzing again. This is exactly what I mean. You always want to have these deep conversations. Can't we just be... His words sank like stones in my chest. I didn't argue. I didn't push. I just swallowed the ache and told myself he was tired, stressed that things would go back to how they used to be. But they didn't. The next week, he posted a picture with some woman from his gym. His arm wrapped around her waist, both of them smiling like they'd known each other forever. The caption read, "Training with the best." When I asked about it, trying to keep my voice steady, he scoffed. "Oh my God, Beth, it's just a post. You seriously need to chill. You're acting insecure, and honestly, that's not attractive." That one cut deep. Because I'd never been the jealous type. I never tried to control him or invade his freedom. I trusted him, completely. But now it felt like he was twisting that trust into a weapon. I wish I could tell you I walked away right then, that I had enough self-respect to see the truth and leave. But the truth, I stayed. I stayed because I loved him. And I convinced myself the man I fell in love with was still in there somewhere, just hidden under stress or distraction. But I was wrong. The night he finally said the words that broke me, that night I realized the man I loved wasn't coming back. The distance between us kept stretching, invisible but undeniable. Kevin was always hunched over his phone, laughing at things I wasn't invited to see. His captions grew sharper, cockier. Pictures of him flexing in the gym mirror shirt, peeled halfway, tagged with lines like, "Don't get comfortable." At first, I brushed it off. Maybe it was just a phase, a way of proving something to himself. But the more I tried to pull us back together, the more he slipped away. I started making his favorite dinners. Little reminders of us spaghetti with homemade sauce, the recipe his mom had taught me. The playlists we once sang along to on road trips. He barely noticed. When I reached out, his responses were sharp-edged. "Beth, you're so serious all the time. Can't you just relax?" It felt like I was begging for scraps of affection from a man who had already left in every way except physically. Then came the night that shattered everything. It was a Wednesday. The kind of unremarkable evening that shouldn't live forever in your memory, but does because of what happens. I was rinsing plates at the sink, asking casually if he wanted to watch something together. He didn't answer at first. He was glued to his phone, scrolling TikTok, lips twitching at some video. Finally, he set it down and looked at me. Not with love, not even with annoyance, with this strange, tilted curiosity, like he was dissecting me. "Do you ever wonder why I'm still here, Beth?" The sponge slipped in my hand. "What do you mean?" He leaned back, arms crossed. "You're sweet, loyal, comfortable, but that's all you are." I turned off the faucet, dried my hands, slowly buying time. "Kevin, where is this coming from?" He shrugged, as if what he was about to say required no weight at all. "You're just a placeholder, until I figure out what I really want." At first I thought I misheard. My chest went hollow, like air had been sucked out of the room. "You, what?" He actually chuckled, laughed like he'd just cracked a clever joke. "Relax. I'm just being honest. You'll still be here when I come back to my senses." In that moment, something inside me shifted. I realized he wasn't expecting heartbreak. He was expecting a scene, shouting, tears, maybe even me, clinging to him in desperation. He wanted to feel powerful, superior. Instead, I gave him nothing. I dried the counter with calm, deliberate motions. My silence unnerved him more than any outburst could have. "Thanks for the honesty," I finally said. His smile faltered, like he couldn't tell if I was serious or playing a game of my own. But I didn't explain. I didn't argue. I didn't fight. That night, I lay beside him in the same bed, his breathing steady as he fell asleep while my eyes stared into the dark ceiling. I felt like I was lying next to a stranger who had just confessed he was only renting space in my life, waiting for something better to come along. I didn't sleep a single minute. By morning, I was gone. I moved with quiet precision, like someone escaping a burning house without waking the fire. Just one suitcase, my laptop passport, a couple of outfits, my toothbrush, nothing more. My name was on the lease. Most of the furniture was mine, the TV, the mattress, even the dishes we used every night. But I left it all. I didn't want him thinking this was about revenge or punishment. This wasn't war. This was escape. On the kitchen counter, I left one note, just one line written in the calmest handwriting I could manage. "Don't worry, you'll have plenty of time to figure it out now." Then I walked out, locked the door, and never looked back. For the first few nights, I crashed on my friend Maya's couch. She didn't ask for details, just shoved a blanket in my hands and said, "You'll tell me when you're ready." That quiet acceptance meant more than words. Still, when the apartment lights went out and the city noises dulled, silence pressed down like a weight. My eyes wandered to the glow of my phone, fingers itching to unlock it, to check, to see if he noticed I was gone. I told myself I wouldn't look. I told myself I was stronger than that. But on the second night, I caved. And there it was. Kevin had already posted a story, a boomerang of him raising an iced coffee. The caption, "New day, new mindset." He hadn't texted, hadn't called, not even a question about where I was. I stared at that story until my vision blurred, the sting of betrayal mixing with something even worse, irrelevance. I locked my phone and whispered to the dark, "That's it. That's the last time." The next morning, I blocked him everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, his number. Deleted every photo, every thread. My hand shook as I pressed delete all, but when the screen cleared, a strange calm washed over me. It wasn't peace yet, but it was the start. The days after blurred into a montage of small recoveries. I started running again, shoes pounding against the pavement until my lungs burned. I dug my guitar out of the closet, strumming chords with fingers stiff from neglect. I even returned to a side project I'd shelved for years, coding a simple app idea I once had before Kevin consumed every corner of my attention. And through it all, Maya's apartment became my cocoon. Her laughter, the faint smell of coffee in the mornings, the way she never pushed me to get over it. She just let me be broken until I wasn't anymore. But healing isn't linear. There were nights I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying his words on loop. "You're just a placeholder." The cruelty of it gnawed at me. Did he ever actually love me? Or was I just convenient until something shinier came along? Sometimes I'd clutch my phone, tempted to unblock him, to demand answers he didn't deserve. But then I'd hear Maya's soft breathing from the next room or the hum of the fridge, ordinary sounds grounding me. And I'd remind myself silence is an answer. Because the man who loved me once wouldn't have called me disposable. Weeks passed. The ache dulled. My body grew lighter, like I was shedding pieces of him with every step I ran, every song I played. Then, one morning over coffee, Maya tilted her head at me and said, "You look different. Less haunted." I didn't answer right away. Just stared at the steam curling from my mug and realized she was right. I was different. I was healing. And for a fleeting moment, I thought maybe this was the end of the story, my escape, my recovery, my rebirth. But endings aren't that simple. I would soon learn that my silence didn't just free me. It lit the fuse on Kevin's unraveling. It didn't take long for whispers to find their way back to me. That's the problem with shared circles, even when you cut someone out. Their shadow lingers in the spaces between friends. One evening, Maya handed me her phone with raised brows. Look familiar. On the screen was Kevin's Instagram. He hadn't wasted a second. There he was, arm draped around Vanessa. The same, just a gym friend he swore meant nothing. Photo after photo, Vanessa perched on his lap at a bar, their lips grazing neon lights blurring behind them. Captions like, "Real recognizes real" and "Upgrade season." I scrolled through them without a flicker of emotion. My chest didn't tighten. My throat didn't close. All I felt was clarity. Because suddenly his placeholder confession made perfect sense. He'd been rehearsing his escape, convincing himself I wasn't enough so he wouldn't feel guilty when he leapt into someone else's arms. At first, Kevin flaunted Vanessa like a trophy. Friends said he wouldn't shut up about her, how wild she was, how she pushed him to live a little. They partied constantly, fueled by late nights and cheap thrills. But there's a difference between fire and fireworks. Fire sustains. Fireworks burn bright, then vanish in smoke. By the second month, the cracks were showing. Vanessa ghosted him for days, then reappeared with excuses. She called him clingy boring, said he lacked edge. One night I got a call from a mutual friend, Jared. We hadn't spoken in ages, so I almost ignored it. "Beth," he said quietly, "I don't know if you care, but you dodged a bullet." I hesitated. "What do you mean?" He sighed. Vanessa dumped him, blocked his number, unfollowed him everywhere. Word is, she told people he was dead weight, even threatened to call the cops when he showed up at her place. I closed my eyes, letting his words sink in. Not with satisfaction, not with pity, just finality. "Thanks, Jared," I said simply. When I hung up, I sat in silence. No music, no TV, just the hum of the fridge behind me and the city traffic outside. And I realized something profound. For the first time in years, Kevin's chaos wasn't mine to manage. His downfall wasn't a burden I had to carry. He was unraveling, and I wasn't even in the room. That night, I played my guitar until my fingers ached, strumming the same chords over and over. Not because I was sad, not because I was angry, but because the repetition reminded me I was building something steady again, something real. And deep down, I knew Kevin's story was far from over. Because men like him don't let go easily. Not when they finally realized the person they called a placeholder was the only one who ever truly stayed. It started quietly, like a whisper carried through mutuals. Maya showed me her phone one afternoon, a screenshot from Kevin's cousin, who had suddenly liked 10 of my old photos in a row. Most of them were harmless coffee cups, a random skyline, even a picture of my dog. But the last one she hearted was a candid shot of me smiling on a balcony captioned, "Peace looks good on you." Message received. Then came the first direct attempt. A text from Kevin late at night. "I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I just wanted to say I'm sorry. You didn't deserve how I treated you." I stared at it until the screen dimmed. Not because I was tempted, but because it felt surreal. The same man who once called me a placeholder now wanted to dress his cruelty up as regret. I didn't respond. Days later, another message. I was confused. I thought I needed something exciting, but all I got was chaos. "You were the best thing in my life, and I was too stupid to see it." Still, I said nothing. Then he escalated. A voice message popped into my inbox a full minute long. I never pressed play. I didn't need to hear his voice trembling with a script he rehearsed in the mirror. But ignoring him didn't stop him. It only fueled him. More texts followed. "Please just hear me out. I miss the way you looked at me. I messed up, Beth. No one else measures up." And yet every word felt less like love and more like desperation. Not for me, but for the comfort I once gave him. One night my phone buzzed while Maya and I were watching a movie. I glanced down and saw another message from him. "I haven't felt whole since you left. You're the only one who ever made me feel like enough." I locked the screen without a word. Maya glanced at me, then back to the TV. She didn't pry. She just reached for the popcorn and nudged the bowl toward me. That simple act, her silent support, anchored me more than any apology ever could. But the truth is, silence is heavy. There were moments late at night when I replayed his words in my head. Not because I missed him, but because I questioned myself. Was I too cold, too unforgiving? Did I walk away too fast? Then I'd remember his smirk as he called me a placeholder, the way he laughed at my pain, and the doubt would fade. Because apologies mean nothing when they're only born from loss, not change. Still, I had no idea how far Kevin would go to claw his way back into my life. The texts were just the beginning. The real confrontation was waiting for me in a parking lot under harsh fluorescent lights where desperation and truth would finally collide. It was a Thursday night. I had stayed late at work, the kind of night where the office lights flickered off one by one until I was the last to leave. The air outside was cool, the kind that nipped at your skin, making the city feel quieter than it really was. I walked toward my car purse strap, digging into my shoulder when I saw him. Kevin, leaning against the hood of my car like he owned it. Arms folded, eyes fixed on me. He looked rehearsed, hairstyled, jacket, zipped just right, but underneath the polish, there was something frayed. His smile didn't reach his eyes. My stomach nodded, but my steps didn't falter. "How did you know I worked here?" I asked, voice flat. He straightened, a half grin tugging at his lips. "You forget I helped you set up your LinkedIn." I didn't smile. "What do you want, Kevin?" He raised his hands like he was surrendering. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I hesitated, keys clenched in my hand like a weapon. Against my better judgment, I stopped a few feet away. He launched into it like he'd practiced the speech 100 times. I messed up, Beth. I thought I was trading up, chasing something thrilling. But it was nothing. Vanessa was nothing. She left the second things got real. And you were everything. I just didn't see it. His voice cracked at the end like he wanted me to believe he was breaking too. I let the silence stretch. The only sound was the hum of the streetlight above us. "You called me a placeholder," I finally said. He flinched. His gaze darted away before snapping back, glassy with regret. "I didn't mean it. I was cruel. I thought if I convinced myself you weren't enough, I wouldn't feel guilty about what I was doing. But I was wrong. You were more than enough. You always were." My heart should have raced, should have ached. But all I felt was clarity, sharp, cold, undeniable. I stepped closer, my voice steady. "You were right, Kevin." His eyes widened. "What?" "I was a placeholder," I said softly. "But not for what you think. I was holding space for the version of you that never showed up, the man who never grew into who he promised to be." He blinked, stunned. His mouth opened, searching for words, but none came. I walked around him, unlocked my car, and slid inside. Through the windshield, I saw him still frozen in place, arms limp at his sides, like the script he memorized had just burst into flames in his hands. I turned the ignition, headlights spilling over him for a brief, blinding second. Then I drove away. That night, for the first time in years, I slept without dreaming. No tossing, no restless replay of his words, no phantom ache in my chest. Just silence. Deep, peaceful silence. And I realized I wasn't healing anymore. I was free. I thought the parking lot would be the end. That he'd take my words, lick his wounds, and finally leave me in peace. But I underestimated desperation. The next morning, I woke to 5 missed calls from an unknown number. 3 voicemails, too. Against my better judgment, I listened. The first was shaky, his voice frayed with tears. "Beth, I know I messed up. I don't even recognize myself anymore. I just miss you. I miss how you made me feel like enough." 2 hours later came the second. Angry, bitter. "So this is who you are now, cold, emotionless. Above it all. I hope being heartless keeps you warm at night." The third swung back to pleading. "Please, I'm not asking to get back together. I just need closure. Real closure. Closure. Funny word, isn't it? Usually it means they want another chance to reopen the wound." I deleted the voicemails without replying. But the messages didn't stop. Texts rolled in, swinging like a pendulum between love and venom. "You were the best thing in my life. No one will ever love you like I did. I hate you for doing this to me. Please just talk to me." It was chaos, the same chaos he once chose over me. When silence didn't work, he turned to others. His mother messaged me on Facebook, her tone gentle but insistent. "I know Kevin made mistakes, but we all do. Don't you think he deserves a second chance?" I stared at the words until my eyes blurred, then closed the app without replying. Because what she didn't understand, what Kevin would never understand, is that I wasn't punishing him. I was protecting myself. The final straw came one evening as I returned from the gym, sweat dampening my shirt, earbuds still in. There he was, standing by the entrance to my apartment building, holding a brown paper bag like it was an olive branch. When he saw me, his face lit up with forced hope. "Hey," he said softly, "I brought dinner. From that Thai place you love. Chicken pad see-ew. Extra spicy. Just like you like it." I stopped 5 feet short of him, my pulse steady. Why are you here, Kevin? He forced a smile, eyes glassy. Because I miss talking to you. Because I can't sleep without thinking about what I did. Because I don't want to spend the rest of my life wondering if I lost the best thing that ever happened to me. He held the bag out like it was proof of his sincerity. I looked at him. Really looked at him, the trembling hands, the desperate smile, the hollow eyes. And I realized he didn't miss me. He missed the mirror I held up, the reflection of a man he liked better when I loved him. My voice was calm, deliberate. I was never your placeholder, Kevin. You were just unready. His mouth opened like he wanted to argue, but I didn't give him the chance. I stepped past him, buzzed into the building, and let the door close behind me. From the lobby window, I saw him standing there, clutching the paper bag, shoulders sagging until he looked small. But I didn't feel pity. I felt freedom. That night, I posted one photo on Instagram, the city skyline at dusk, captioned simply peace. No tags, no explanation, just peace. A month later, I moved. New city, new job, new walls that had never heard his voice, new streets that didn't carry the weight of our arguments. For the first time in years, my life felt entirely mine. I didn't post much on social media, but when I did, it was intentional. A quiet coffee shop corner with my laptop open, a snapshot of me hiking hair, windswept, smiling into the sun. Photos of laughter with friends who valued me, not what I could provide for them. Each picture carried no hidden message, no veiled attempt to prove anything to anyone. They weren't for him. They were for me. Of course, his name still floated back to me in fragments. Tagged photos from mutuals showed Kevin back in his hometown, living with his parents again. His captions read like hollow mantras, "Protect your energy. Some people never deserved your time." Funny, considering he once told me I was a placeholder. Now he was the one drifting jobless, aimless, wrapped in the same chaos he once traded me for. But here's the thing, I didn't laugh. I didn't smirk. I didn't even care. Because his story was no longer mine. One night, as I watched the city lights blink outside my window, I thought about the last text he ever sent me before I blocked him for good. One day you're going to look back and realize I was the only one who ever really loved you. I remember reading it then, closing my eyes, because I already knew the truth. One day, yes, there will come a moment when Kevin looks back and realizes he had someone who loved him the way he always claimed he wanted, and he spit on it. But when that day comes, it won't matter, because by then I won't even be a memory worth revisiting. My name is Beth Marquez. I was never a placeholder. I was the real thing, and now finally I am free.